24 minutes to 8 and you're listening to Good Morning Scotland this morning with Graham Stewart and Laura McKeever. Now, a new report out this morning lays bare the health inequalities across Scotland. The findings show cancer death rates are around 80% higher for people living in the most deprived areas of the country. Almost half of the additional deaths are caused by lung cancer, which, if caught early, is easier to treat. Well, Debbie King is from Cancer Research UK in Scotland and is with us now. Debbie, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
So I've touched on just some of these findings, but it's your organisation's report. So just talk us through some of the main findings from this report.
No, absolutely. And thanks so much for inviting Cancer Research UK on. It's pretty stark. And the statistics show that actually the health inequalities are still incredibly high in Scotland. So we need to do much more and we need to do it urgently. With 80%, the cancer death rate's been 80% higher in the most deprived areas. This means that around 4,300 additional cancer deaths happen. And that's, absolutely devastating. And, it leaves behind families and friends who some of these deaths are avoidable. Now, the reason that we want to kind of really push three key things and three key solutions and interventions that will help to address this inequality. So for us, it's really important that we tackle tobacco. Lung cancer is primarily caused by smoking tobacco. People know how addictive it is and how difficult it is to give it up once you start. So there's legislation currently going through at Westminster, and we want it to be introduced in Scotland too. Now, that's the Tobacco and Vapes Bill. The reason it's so important is within that legislation, it has a measure which will make sure that anybody who turns 15 today will never legally be able to be sold tobacco. And it means we'll create a smoke-free generation in the future. Incredibly important, because if people do take up smoking, as I said, it's really hard to quit. And actually, tobacco can cause up to 16 different types of cancer. So we really need to tackle that.
Yeah. And one of those is lung cancer, Debbie.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
You also want to touch on that because screening for lung cancer at the moment isn't what you would like it to be, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the other interventions. And we know the Scottish Government's working on this. They're getting reports through in a business case, but we want it to be introduced as soon as possible, because if you have targeted lung cancer screening, it would call in people who have been previous smokers, who are current smokers, and test them to ensure that actually lung cancer hasn't started. If we catch lung cancer at the start, there are more treatments available and they're more likely to be successful. At the minute, most lung cancers are caught at the later stages when the treatment isn't likely to be as successful. So there's measures we can take which would really help to address this inequality. Now, the other thing that actually is really important is we need to support people who are smoking to quit if that's what they wish to do. And there's smoking cessation programs which are really successful. But what we want to ensure is those smoking cessation programs are fully funded and accessible to those in the most deprived areas, because the smoking rates are higher in those areas. And people want to quit. They tell us they want to quit, but it's incredibly difficult to do. So those three measures, if we can get them in place, will absolutely go a long way to addressing some of this health inequality. And as we always say with Cancer Research UK, if we're beating cancer, we must beat it for everyone. We need to reach out and make sure that this inequality that is driving all these additional deaths is addressed.
What other cancers then are we seeing that seem to be more pervasive in deprived areas? In
the more deprived areas, it will be a range of them. And as I said before, when we look at, just tobacco itself, that causes 16 different cancers. So those cancers, we need to have a full set of interventions and measures that will reach people so that they do get the services. We know that often for people in the more deprived areas, accessing services can be more difficult. We know that actually the screening programs that we have are really good. The ones we currently have on breast, cervical and bowel, people absolutely should take up that offer for that screening, because these screening programs are there to catch the cancers before any symptoms appear. And that's when it's really critical, because then as I said before, the interventions, the treatments are likely to be much more successful and probably likely to be have less severe side effects as well. So it's in people's interest to absolutely take up those screening programmes. So I think for us there's a range of measures. And we need to ensure that those reach every community in Scotland and that everybody in those communities are supported to take them up.
Yeah, so you would just like to see more targeting of campaigns and of screening into these areas where you know it's needed.
Absolutely, and just to make sure that where we have, when we have half of these additional cases are through lung cancers, that absolutely that's taken account of, and those measures that will make a huge difference are put in place.
OK, well, great to hear from you this morning, Debbie. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Debbie King there from Cancer Research UK in Scotland.